Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 22 of the Live Life Golden Show. Forgiveness, how to free yourself from your negative stories of the past. I am so excited about this conversation. I think in some of this conversation, I'm feeling like I want to justify the way I live my life for a few different reasons. But for one, so that people can understand the foundation of living from your joy, the foundation of living a life that is unapologetic, a life that is really cohesive with your desires, with what you're looking to create. You know, we grow up in a society that tells us that doing things for ourselves is selfish. And because of that, we all live a less than existence because we're always trying to make everybody else happy. If you're a people pleaser, you get this. If you're always doing for others and always putting your own desires and wants aside for other people, you are living a life that is less than, and you're not going to really step into the joy of who you are, really step into the joy of creating from your greatest power. Because in that, there's a lot of powerlessness and there's a lot of obligation and there's a lot of doing for others and becoming empty yourself. And in that, there's a lot of living from lack. So like trying to get love in all the wrong places, they say, trying to get love so I can fill myself up, trying to do things for people so that I can feel better about myself. There's so much lack in that energy and in that vibration. So I want to help you guys clean that up today. And I want you to get a new perspective on forgiveness so that you can stand in a place of being present. So you can stand in a place of being whole and healed and create from this moment right here, right now, and not allow the past to cast such a huge shadow over the life that you're living right now. When we don't forgive, we actually imprison ourselves. We put ourselves in a prison with the people that we want to be released from, right? These feelings that are creating more and more reasons for us to feel the same way. So that's why it's so important to release from this so that you don't keep recreating it. If you have patterns in your life, if you have cycles in your life, this is why, because you have a vibration of unforgiveness that is causing a negative strand, a negative string hold on that experience that's recreating it in your relationships, in your dealing of the present, which is creating your future. Okay, so what is forgiveness? You know, I love to look up these definitions. It's fun for me to look up the definitions because they so align with what I'm interested in teaching. So in Google, the definition of forgiveness is deliberate. You know, I love being deliberate. Decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they are actually deserving of your forgiveness. So the fact that they aren't sorry, that they haven't said they were sorry, that they didn't take back what they did, maybe they continue to do things to you, it doesn't matter, because forgiveness truly is about you. It's not about them. It's your deciding deliberate decision to release yourself from this pain, to release yourself from the hold that this person, relationship, circumstance has over you, so that you can start to clean up your experience and start deliberately creating instead of creating from this past wound or this past hurt. When it comes to forgiveness, oftentimes there is an element of our own self-forgiveness that is coming into play. We may think that we forgave the person, we may think that we released them, but there could be another layer of forgiving ourselves for ever putting ourselves in that position, or forever sustaining a position for a long time. If you have ever been in a situation like an abusive situation where you've been in a relationship with someone, maybe you had kids, maybe your kids were subjected to some abuse because you stayed. I want you to remember something very, very important, and that is this. We cannot create if we are not aware. So oftentimes we stay in situations for too long because of fear, because of unawareness, because of unconscious living, because we're simply not awake yet, because the pain hasn't become so much that we decide leaving is less painful, right? Many times in our life situations, we stay doing things for way too freaking long because we think the pain of leaving will be more than the pain of staying. And most often, almost probably every time, it's less painful to leave. You free yourselves from situations when you decide to let go. So when it comes to self-forgiveness, you going within and looking inside your heart, seeing where that self-critical nature is, seeing where that self-hatred is, seeing where you're keeping yourself in positions of unforgiveness for yourself will help the whole situation to heal. But the very first thing you have to do is kind of deal with the situation, deal with the circumstance, the person, or the experience. So I've had a long history with my biological family of forgiveness. I've had many years of not being in relationship with them and having an opportunity to clean up those relationships without being called to them. Now, I have been accused by people of having, a throwaway mentality, that I throw away people, that I throw away relationships, and that's okay. Anyone can think whatever they want about me. That's totally fine. But this is the truth. Like, this is my truth. Standing in my truth is that I'm a reality creator. I'm a deliberate creator. And I've made decisions around my life that if there are relationships that are not lending to my joy, if they're causing me a lot of stress, if they're causing a lot of tension, if I'm looking at those relationships and I'm making decisions based around my integrity, the way I want my day to go, the way I want to feel, the way I want, what conversations I want to be in. If I'm making decisions based on my well-being, on my ultimate health, and what is truly good for me so that I can be this bright light in the world, so that I can shine, so that I can show others, so I can empower others, then there are relationships that I need to let go of. And in that, I never mean harm. I never, throw people away. I never think awful about people. It's the truth of the matter is I'm creating a field around myself that is a higher vibration. Now, that doesn't mean I'm better than people. It just means that I've made decisions around my life story that cause it to be elevated, that cause myself and my vibrational output to be elevated. Now, this doesn't mean that all of your relationships need to be thrown by the wayside. It doesn't. This was a spiritual decision that I made for myself that was very challenging. And I went through a lot of things to get to where I am today. In fact, it was only probably a year or two ago that I forgave myself. Like I didn't even really know that was going on. And I was working with an energy person. And she was kind of like, oh, you have to get back. And a lot of times I want you to be really careful when you work with energy people, or when you work with psychics, or you work with people who are helping you heal, those people that have taken this on. I want you to be really careful and ask yourself, when you're working with someone, are they bringing their own experience into mine? Because that often will happen instead of them helping you get to your own answers and seeing and feeling what's right for you. Now, this energy person really helped me to actually clarify, even though she was telling me to do the opposite of what I wanted to do. So that helped me clarify what I really wanted to do. So she wanted me to get back in touch and to create a relationship again. And that all felt very wrong to me. It just didn't feel in vibrational alignment with the life that I'm living. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel right. So that's really important. Really important is for us not to bypass what our heart is calling us to because some outside person tells us we should, or some outside religion tells us we should, right? Or, a lot of that stuff is based on guilt. Oh, you should because that person is hurting, or you should bypass your own well-being for someone else. I will never agree with that. Never. So I had to make that decision. And in that moment, I had a conversation with my husband, and he said, when are you going to let yourself off the hook? When are you going to stop feeling regret and like you're doing something wrong, that you did something wrong. He said, when are you going to forgive yourself? And it flipped a switch for me so importantly for me to move forward in my life and live life differently, to let myself off the hook, to say, you know what? It is what it is. We came to this part in our relationship. It doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't inspire my well-being. It doesn't allow me to soar, to be the person that I am, to up level. And this could change. I am not opposed to change whatsoever. I do not have my heart closed to anyone, but I do value where I am today and where I am going. And because of that, I will not sacrifice it. I will not sacrifice my own joy for anybody else, for anybody else. So you have to really ask yourself those deep and important questions. Is this relationship leading me to any joy? Is there any joy left in it? Or is it a complete obligation of heavy, dense emotions that cause me to be in a low vibrational, miserable state where I can't access my joy? Now, maybe I have some more spiritual evolution to do. Definitely. No doubt about it. There's no maybes about it. There's plenty of spiritual evolution for all of us. Higher perspective in life experience with relationships is this. I believe that we have these soul contracts. So I believe that we sign up with people for certain experiences, and part of those experiences are to help us. I mean, most of all of the experiences, I will say, are to help us to step into our power, to know who we truly are. And we can't know who we truly are until we go through these contrasting challenges that help us to choose. And I do believe that. And I do love my biological family for getting me to this place, for helping me to stand in my strength, for helping me to be this person, because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't live that experience. So that's where we come to looking at everything that's happened to you and finding the gifts, right? Finding the gifts that are in your experience. So the only way that you can really do that is if you create some space. So if you've had something that happened just recently, it's a little bit harder. If it's something that happened years ago, it's in your past, it's a little bit easier to work with. But new charged energy that is just charged and triggered an emotion for you is a little more, it's got a lot more energy involved when it comes to shifting it right now. It's possible. It's totally possible. I actually did that recently with myself. But if you've got a lot of angst around it and you've got a lot of trigger around it, we got to do some clearing out first so that you can create the space. And that clearing out is always meditation. It's going within, it's finding your own answers. It's asking within your heart how things feel for you and where you are in that journey. Forgiveness is a journey. It's just like any emotional field. It's a journey, and healing is a journey. So you may be in one place with it right now and do the work and come to another place, and there may be more places you need to go with it. And oftentimes new relationships will come that will help get you to those new places. And oftentimes those new relationships can be triggering, and they can trigger those old wounds that invite you and give you the opportunity to heal. It's a journey, people. It's a journey. So when you have something that keeps happening over and over again, and this happened to me in friendships for sure, where, there was this friendship that I had, and it was wonderful, and it was loving, and it was, it really felt good. It felt soulful. But when it came to, there were things that were happening over and over again. So you've got to look at things you got to pull back and look at things from a different perspective. Because if you're too close to those situations, sometimes it's hard to really see what's going on. So I have to pull back often, and I have to ask myself, questions. And my questions are, is this really working for me? Okay, this has happened 5 or 6 times. This exact scenario has happened 5 or 6 times. And every single time I have bypassed the way I really feel about it. And I've stepped into love and forgiveness. And when I do that, when I step into that love and forgiveness, it felt good, but it was my bypassing. So when I bypass my own feelings, then every time I come back to that relationship, I am less than. I am less than. And this is not, you guys, this is not what we're being taught. We're being taught to be selfless. We are being taught to constantly serve. We are being taught to not look at our own feelings. We were never taught that growing up. And when we do that and we step into a place of not paying attention to how we really feel, we create these gaping wounds. And when we create the gaping wounds, we start acting from them. And when we act from them, we live a life that is so much less than the joy that we really are, so much less than the love that we really are. Listen, if you are a super loving, totally forgiving, open, trusting person, awesome. But I want you to start asking yourself what's going on underneath. Are you bypassing yourself? Are you putting yourself in a position of not being important, right? Like that whole worthiness thing. Remember that worthiness thing that we did episodes ago? Are you telling yourself that you're not worth it? That you are not worth paying attention to the way you feel or being treated correctly, being treated with kindness and respect, and being met halfway? If you've got a lot of relationships, and this is easy to do, especially if you've been a people pleaser your whole life. If you have a lot of relationships where you are constantly giving and there's not an equal exchange of energy, it doesn't have to be like tit for tat type of energy, but if it's not an equal amount of energy, it's like you're always doing the output and you're always doing the listening and you're always doing the advising and you're always in that position of feeling like needed, right? Right. But then when you're in a position of needing that person or needing someone to be there, they're not there for you, or you don't feel the same exchange. I would put that in question. And I would really start going within and asking yourself, is this relationship in my highest and best interest? Does this relationship feel good to me? What happens when we're spiritually evolving, when we're really working on our personal development, when we're really awakening, what happens is our vibration starts to raise, especially if you have a meditation practice. Your vibration starts to raise. And when that happens, there's people that won't meet up with you. You won't be on the same plane anymore. You'll actually be kind of speaking a different language. And if you're always trying to share with them what you've learned, share with them, how great life is, and they're not happy for you and they're not really gravitating to that information, and maybe they're telling you that you're not helpful, if that's happening, then sometimes those relationships just have to be let go of. Maybe not forever, but it's about protecting your field. It's about putting yourself in a position of highest and best. My position in life always is to be of the most value to others and the most value to myself. And if I don't feel like what I'm doing is being valued, then I will step away. It's just the way I feel about my life experience and what I'm offering to people. And I do feel like I've got a position here, like there's a forum here for me to speak from this. And because of that, I have to keep myself very elevated. I've got to keep myself in an elevated state. And trust me, I am not always elevated. Sundays seem to be the day where I'm downgraded a little bit, and I'm in this state of working on just replenishment. But also yesterday I noticed I was in this very dissatisfied state. So I was thinking about things and I was being very dissatisfied with, this is the last week of my body fat competition. So I was feeling very dissatisfied about not eating carbohydrates and not having any fun whatsoever. But those are choices that I'm making. And I chose to be a little miserable about that yesterday. And I had some awareness about it this morning. I woke up really early and I was getting our stuff ready for the day. And I was thinking about one of my daughters, and I was thinking about things she's been doing that are dissatisfying me. And I thought, oh man, I have tuned myself into being dissatisfied since yesterday. Like I had that awareness and I was like, what about gratitude? Like, what am I grateful for? And what do I love her for? And so to like retune yourself into those stations that feel good, you first have to be super aware. So asking yourself, when it comes to this person, when it comes to this situation, where am I at right now? Where is my vibration at right now with this particular thing? Okay. So you first have to know where you are. It's so important because we spend so much of our life in denial. We spend so much of our life, pushing down emotions and not really connecting with how we truly feel about things. We can't heal unless we feel, right? We can't heal unless we connect with how we really feel in this moment. And when we don't connect with how we really feel, we're going to allow triggers to run our life. We are not going to be in a deliberate decision situation because we're going to be acting from these unhealed emotions, from these things that create these cycles in relationships. And that's absolutely no fun. So ask yourself, where are you at in this situation? Where are you on the scale? What are you feeling? Like, go into your heart, ask yourself, how do I really feel about this? And then put yourself in a position where you can ask for higher perspective. So that means you quiet your mind, you get really quiet and you ask for higher perspective. And you allow your mind, your body, your spirit to be elevated to higher perspective. So I want to give you guys some examples of higher perspective because higher perspective really does change everything. And sometimes if we're in the problem, it can be hard to find that higher perspective. So let me think just for a second, like of a good example, because I've had a lot of clients that have been in, these lower, denser perspectives and have created this belief system, right? It's just a story. Like our beliefs are just thoughts we keep thinking. So we create this story, we wrap a story around everything. And because we wrap a story around everything, we can believe that people were out to hurt us, or we can believe that people didn't have our best interest at heart, or that we're not good enough, right? Like we're not good enough to have people love us and to want to be in relationship with us. So like, let's take a breakup, for instance. So let's say you're in a situation and your significant other that you've been with for a few years and you thought you were creating this happiness with cheats on you. Okay, this is not a personal example. My husband has never cheated on me. But let's say that they cheat on you. And it's a situation where it was like a one-time thing. And let's say that they were drinking. Okay. So they were drinking alcohol in this situation and they cheated on you. So you can do one of two things. You can take that situation and you can make it personal. And you can say that you're not good enough and that's why this person did this to you. And you can get really into a self-critical, insecure mode. And if you get that way, it means you've got some healing to do. Now, if you go into complete anger at this person that you're in relationship with and just, break it off and say, I can't trust you and, you're no good. Even if they're sorry, if you get into that situation and break off the relationship, you really are doing both of you a disservice to see where that relationship could have healed both of you, where you could have gone with that situation. Now, if it's cheating over and over again, you know that this person has no respect for your relationship and it's time to let that person go. But I'm talking about like a one-time situation. Even in a friendship, a one-time situation where somebody does something to you that feels awful, feels terrible. You have a decision to either not forgive them, to break off your relationship with them, or to stand in the place of love and compassion and forgiveness. You have that choice. Depending on how wounded you are, will depend on what you will decide to do, right? Depending on if that person, here's a really cool perspective, depending on if that person is supposed to be in your life for longer, right? Because I really believe that we have soul contracts with people. And I do believe that we are put together, right? We kind of choose each other, right? It's our movie. We're the producer. We choose each other and we choose our cast of characters. And that cast of characters sometimes has a scene break where they leave the scene and they never come back again. Like that's it. Their character is gone out of your life because you learn the lessons you need to learn with them. Your contract has been fulfilled. There's other people in our lives that we have longer soul contracts with where there's more healing to do. There's more of a connection that needs to be explored together to create expansion and growth. Now, if you have a marriage that ended and you've got a bunch of unforgiveness and resentment, because let's say that person cheated on you, right? And let's say they did really awful things and there was custody battles and there were just terrible, terrible things that took place because hurt people, right? You have to look for some love and compassion for that experience, for that person, in order to shift the relationship, in order to free yourself from what you have been putting out there, from that vibrational energy of unforgiveness. And this person is awful. And, I hear it all the time, like this person is narcissistic and he's a sociopath. I see people, I think that if people really knew what like if they could have gotten a crystal ball and saw really what divorce was going to bring, I think a lot of people would have tried harder. I really do. And the reason for that is not to give you like some kind of like guilt or regret that you didn't try harder, but it's just the element of just hardship that comes with ending a marriage, especially when there's kids involved. So if you had a whole bunch of pain, if you had a whole bunch of unforgiveness that happened in those moments, and it put you in a state of powerlessness, that's what you've been creating from. And that's why there's been so much strife. When we are in anger, when we are in resentment, when we are in unforgiveness, we are in powerlessness. We cannot possibly stand in our power and create when we are activating from those low vibrational energies. Those are survival energies, right? Those are protective energies. Many of them came from moments in our past when we were little and we had to protect ourselves. We had to survive. There were traumas that happened around us. They may not have even been very big. A lot of them, happened because of like relationships in school when you were like 5 years old and the kids wouldn't play with you on the playground. I mean, a lot of that stuff comes from that. And this is your opportunity to heal. So we are always being invited to heal. Every relationship, every negative situation that comes to pass is our invitation to heal. It's to open up and to ask ourselves, how have I closed my heart to this person? Recently, I had talked to someone who went through a relationship breakup, and there was a custody battle because there's a child involved, and it's just terrible, just awful, and just a lot of game playing and a lot of just strife. A lot of strife and a lot of stress, and moving away from that. Being in that relationship because you don't have a choice. You're sharing a child, right? And what is in the best interest of the child is to work on yourself. It's to work on your own healing. It's to work on the way you look at that person. Do you know that every single person in your life is creating from a behavior of the story you have wrapped around them? Let me say that again. Every person in your life is creating from the behavior you have wrapped around them. And the reason for that is frequency, right? It's just like the radio station. You have dialed into a certain station with them. And because of that, you have set up expectation. You have set up a frequency that is tuned into that part of their behavior. And you've caused yourself to be in a situation where you are creating something by default. So you are creating the relationship based on the past experience, what you have experienced with this person in the past, and the judgments that you have made about that person in the past. That's all it is. That's what it is. And the sooner you can work on healing that and start seeing that person in a different light. So in this situation, I said, he must be a very wounded little boy. There's a very wounded little boy inside of him. Whenever people are acting like bullies and, they're trying to put one over on you and they're trying to control a situation in a very negative way, it usually means that they have some traumas that they haven't healed, and they're acting from those traumas. They're acting from those triggers. So if you could look at this person and be like, okay, they've got some unhealed wounds. And if you can feel even a teeny tiny bit of compassion, you will shift the relationship. You will shift the behavior that you see from that person. I always say a positive aspect sheet is great. In this situation, it may be challenging, especially if you've had a lot of momentum going with a certain person for a long time that's been super negative. It can be very, very hard to find the positives. The positives would be, at least my child has a father in his life that wants to be with him. Now, that could kick up some stuff if you don't really believe the father wants to be with them, right? So you've got to stretch. You got to reach, and you got to decide that what you believe is what you create. And because of that, it's so important for you to clean this stuff up, especially if you've got children involved. So finding the gifts, there's always gifts in everything that's happened to you. So if you could, it's good to work with someone, to gain that higher perspective. I do actually have a group coming up, and right now I'm just working with women because that feels right. If I had a group of guys come to me, I definitely would not say no, but it's just gathering a group of guys that are really interested in healing and doing this work together has not been where I feel called. So right now I'm just working with women, but my next group launches September 1st, 2021. I know what year it is now. And, we're going to go through this. We go through writing prompts. We go through releasing. So if you work with someone, they are really good at giving higher perspective because they're not in the problem with you. As long as you have the right person, it's something that I definitely have a gift for. So we did a lot of that in our last group. We had incredible results in just finding out, where people have these unhealed wounds and how to start working on creating and softening those experiences so they don't feel so tragic, right? So that you don't look back at your life and say, my life was stolen from me, or this person has made my life a living hell. And in all of that, right? Your parents, your biological family, your siblings, your ex-husband, your ex-wife, by believing that, right? That they stole your life, that they took away the dream that you had that you wanted to create. By believing that, you're in victimhood. When you're in victimhood, you cannot be a deliberate creator because you're moving from an energy that says, I have no power over this. I've never had any power over this. This person has taken this away from me. And you live in regret and resentment. And when you live in regret and resentment, guess what? You live in misery. You live in a low level vibration that does not let the true power of your joy shine. It doesn't allow you to really step into your gifts. If you have things going on right now, like right here, right now, that are causing you, to dampen your joy. I actually went walking with a friend yesterday, and she's had some stuff going on with her kids, and they're older. Just, world stuff that feels intense, and it can feel like powerlessness, and it can feel like I don't know what to do. And I think it's really challenging when we see our kids go through things and we want to just rescue them and we want to give them the secret sauce, to fix everything in their life. And I just kept saying to her, like, it's just making their desires stronger, and it's making our desires stronger for the highest and best for them. So trusting that everyone has that destiny, including your little children that might be subjected to things that are not optimal in your eyes, right? We all have our own destiny, and we're all growing and expanding into our strength and power from those experiences. So when you really trust that, then you release yourself, you free yourself from suffering. And what we do when we suffer for other people is we don't allow them to step out of the suffering, because it's like we're putting our suffering glasses on, right? And it's like, I can only see this child suffering. And when you only see their suffering, you can't be a guide to their relief, right? You're reminding them constantly of their problem. You're trying to fix their problem. You're both in the problem. Guess what? When you're both in the problem, no one's in the solution, so the solution cannot be found. So you've got to back away from these experiences, and you got to trust. That's the biggest thing. And that's a hard thing as a parent. Let me tell you, hardest thing probably that I've ever had to do. I wrap my kids in angels constantly. Constantly. That's how I can go to sleep when they're not home. I can sleep well. That's been years. I've been a mom for 29 years. So you have to do that. That's like survival, so you don't like die of worry, right? How many of our moms like just were constantly feeling worried about their children and didn't really live their joy because they were just living in worry? And I think Mark Twain's the one that said like 99% of the stuff we worry about never happens. Right? What are you worried about? Come on, let's get out of the worry. Let's get out of that worry. Like anything that you're worried about, anything that's causing you to be in a low vibrational field, anything that you're studying or researching or looking up or creating all sorts of angst about, conversations that feel like powerlessness, like victimhood, if you would let those all go, you would feel a lot better, and you would have a lot more time and attention and energy on the things that you actually love. And you'll create a life that feels more like love and less like bondage. You'll create a life that's much more joyful and a lot less in fear, right? Okay. So that's worry. That just came up. All right, let me just see what else I did not touch upon. So when it comes to forgiving yourself, so understand that there's an entanglement of fields. I've talked about the entanglement of our fields. So when we entangle our fields with people, and it's easy to do this with people that we like super, super love, like our biological family, our children, our spouses, partners, people that we get, super involved with, that we're living with every day, or we're in relationship with because of kids, or whatever keeps us like super bonded. Our fields get entangled with people to the level of when these really intense experiences happen and we feel this trauma, we can often have this entanglement of our fields where we can't let go. We can't release ourselves. It's like we're completely immersed in their negative energy, and their negative energy has become our negative energy. And because of that, that's where we get into like the self-hatred and the not forgiving ourselves and being in that feeling of stuckness. Anytime you are hating and not forgiving yourself, you are perpetuating the same situations over and over again, and you're really keeping yourself stuck. So this is why going within and healing is so, so, so important to your growth, to your spiritual growth, to stepping into self-love and that worthiness that I've talked about, really truly being worthy of love, in creating a new relationship. If you're in between relationships and you've let go of one and it was really hard and there was a lot of angst created and there was a lot of expansion and growth that you were being called to, but instead you're sitting in the regret of it, the growth is going to be stunted. It's going to be slowed way down. Remember, negative, dense energy, heavy emotion is slow. It's slow to move. So if you're in that lower stuckness and that slow energy, deliberately creating a life is a lot harder because you're keeping yourself in that lower, slower frequency. So you got to let go. You got to do the healing work. You've got to make decisions based on what you really want to create, what you really want to create. So I had a question on my forgiveness post today. Got forgiveness on the mind because somebody called me to it. You guys can always call me to something. I love it. I have my Live Life Golden page on Facebook. You can follow me at Live Life Golden on Instagram and message me there, or you can send me an email at livelifegolden@gmail.com and let me know what you're working on, because as these things come up for you, they're coming up for everyone in the collective. So I can speak to everyone on it because we are all on the same journey. I always say we all live the same life. And it always feels so good to know that other people are going through what you're going through and to feel supported, to feel loved. I had a beautiful woman who reached out to me on YouTube recently, and she said, that I was speaking right to her, like that she felt like spirit was talking through me to her. And I was like, that's what this is about. That's what being on this journey together is about. It's being led to the people who are going to say the things we need to hear. It's growing, it's expanding, and it's being called to these new places, invited to these new places. So the question that was asked was, do I have to forget, right? Do I have to forgive and forget? And I think it's impossible to forget. I definitely do. I do think that there's a time where it becomes not so charged. So it's not like on the top of your mind. It's not like where you come from. It's not where you live from. And I think that's the important part of forgiveness, is when we don't live from that and expect other people to act like that, right? That's when you've really healed, when you're not expecting and you're not fearful that people are going to do the same thing that somebody else did to you, right? That's the trust aspect. That's moving into your worthiness and forgiveness of self so that you can create brand new relationships. Because the second you start to feel triggered, that's your invitation to heal and to decide, do I want to create this relationship the same way I created that relationship? Or do I want to just, create some boundaries? Do I want to up level from this? Do I want to decide? So it's not really about forgetting, because, I do think that there's a lot of value in the journey that we're living and in the information we're being given. I think there's a huge amount of value. I think that relationships that end and things that happen actually help us put boundaries in place that help us to start deciding and choosing ourselves, choosing our own well-being over others. This is not about being selfish either. I have to say that one more time. This is not about being selfish. This is about creating a life that feels really good to you, a life that you choose to live, that you decide you're going to expand and grow and up level into this place. And if those people want to up level with you, and they want to be there, and they want to love you and support you and be in your wholeness with you, they will be. They will show up for you that way. And if they don't, and they want to stay in victimhood and hurt and pain, the only thing that we can offer in those situations that will keep our own preservation clean is love and compassion. And that's energy, right? Everything is energy. Remember this. So everything you are thinking about someone, everything you are saying about someone can be felt. It's felt. It's absolutely felt. And because of that, people will act a certain way towards you, and you're like, well, I didn't do anything to them. But it's like, well, what were you thinking about when it came to them? Were you dreading being with them? Do you not want to be in a relationship with them anymore? Has your vibration changed? So you're in a different plane? I say oftentimes, like, I'm on a different planet, because I am sometimes. And that doesn't mean that they're less than me. It just means we're at a different place in our spiritual growth. We are all brought here to have a certain level of spiritual growth. And some are not on the same, they're just not in the same place. They're like in a different lifetime. So knowing that should let people off the hook. It should let you say, they're not where I am, and that's okay, right? There's that level of acceptance that comes with forgiveness. They're not sorry. They still are angry with me. They still throw hate at me. It's okay. because that's their pain. That's their stuff. And there's nothing that I need to do other than take care of me in this situation to create a life of love and joy. Nothing. And if I offer people love and compassion and forgiveness from my seat, from where I sit, then that's all I really need to do, because that's healing. That heals the world. And if they don't feel that healing, if they don't accept that healing, if they're not on that same plane of healing, that's not my job. My job is me. My job is my life and what I'm conducting from. That's all we can do. I think that we've put ourselves up to these impossible standards of wanting to make things better all the time, right? Like, do you grow up in like this non-confrontational, like, oh, I hate confrontation. I don't want to say what I really feel. And I don't, God, we make such a mess of life doing that and just pushing down our emotions and biting our tongues and the whole thing. If we could live more from our truth, if we could live more from, this happened and I wasn't crazy about it, I probably could have preserved a few relationships if I had done that. But people will show you. They'll show you if your journey with them has ended. You will know. There's indications, right? Like I call it nails in the coffin. Like that's one of my favorite statements. And I say all the time, the energy will show you where the next place to go is. The energy will show you what this relationship is bringing. What is the next step in this relationship? And if all the answers are on the wall, if all the writing is on the wall that says it's time to end this, and you hold on because you need love, because you're unhealed, because you're not whole, you will perpetuate a longer time of being in pain. You will. It's just the way it is. Just like with your job, just like with the place you live, you will perpetuate a longer journey there if you don't start letting go of the things that are not working in your life. You got to ask yourself, you got to get really, really honest. That's what we found out in my recent group coaching, was that we needed to get really honest about things in order for things to change. We needed to really ask ourselves. One of the big things that we came across was like the self-integrity thing, like making promises to yourself and breaking them, because the self-integrity thing, it conducts a lot of what you do. Right? So when you make a promise to yourself and you break that promise, it creates disappointment, it creates distrust of self, and what we found, self-integrity is rooted in is worthiness. Am I really worthy to do what I say I want to do? Am I really worthy to live who I say I want to be? Am I connecting with that identity? Am I connecting with that person? So look at all of your relationships, look at those unhealed wounds inside, and decide for yourself, what this unforgiveness is doing. What is it doing for you? Is it keeping you safe? Is it keeping you the same? Is it keeping you in a perpetuation of not needing to do anything, not needing to grow, I don't need to step into a new relationship because my heart is closed down, because new relationships mean I'm going to get hurt and they mean that I'm going to have to trust somebody again. And all of that is really scary. Well, guess what? You're keeping yourself from a capacity of joy that is so much better than where you are, truly. Everything that has happened is that invitation for your growth. And you can always ask for assistance. If you're feeling like this is really heavy and you don't know how to forgive and you don't know how to heal, always ask for non-physical assistance, because it's always there. Divine energy is love. It's unconditional love. It's compassion. It's joy. It's wholeness. It's calling you to your healing in every single moment, in every single trigger. It is calling you to your healing. I have a bug. Oh my goodness. Oh, I had a bug just flying in front of my face. It's all good. It's all good. And working through your life scope, and this is something that has really come into my awareness a lot lately. We have this emotional field, and the truth is I'm trying to catch the bug. I'm like slapping so I can catch the bug. we can often get into these dissatisfied states, especially if you've got a day like a Sunday where you're just laying around and you're not doing much and you've got time for your mind to like really think about things, really get into those emotional triggers and those old tapes, those old neural pathways that tell you you're not good enough, that life isn't going right, that you're, that you need things to go faster, whatever it is, whatever is going on. Just know that that is a radio station that you have tuned into, and you can tune out of it as soon as you decide. And as soon as you start pulling from appreciation, well, what is going right? What is going good? Where are the relationships that fill me, that really fulfill me, that really make my heart burst with love? Where are those relationships? If you don't have them, it may be because you have to let some of the shitty ones go. I'm sorry to say, it may be. We weren't meant to be in obligation all the time. It's such a low, dense frequency. And oftentimes when we're in obligation, whoever was supposed to come along to fulfill the roles that we have been fulfilling begrudgingly can't fulfill their service. They can't fulfill the need that relationship needs to with that other person. So by letting go, you actually allow in for something else for that person that could be higher and better for them, that could be more on their plane, could be something that they need to expand and grow from. So stop being obligatory. I really am out of obligation in my life. As much as I'm a mom and a wife and I do things out of love, and I really work on not overcommitting, not trying to get people's love, but to live from a place of doing things from my wholeness, from my wellness, from my healed self. So again, if you need help, I am going to launch another group September 1st, and that group was absolutely phenomenal. There was so much healing work that went on that I'm really pleased with. I'm really pleased with what came from that and the expansion and growth that I received from working with people, and the new awarenesses and the downloads that came through from working with individuals on their healing journey. And if you're scared about the money, yes, it does cost money. I have people that just committed, that just decided, and the money was there. The money came, and they will all tell you that it was well worth the commitment and the investment in themselves. That's what it was. It was about connecting with the worthiness of who they are and deciding that living life from that cycle was no longer working for them. So anytime we commit to our spiritual and personal growth, we're always going to be supported. And, there's always manifestation. I know how to do that. So I can help you with that. So you can hit me up at livelifegolden@gmail if you're interested in that. And we can set up a transformation call. Those calls were incredible. And I believe there was transformation for every single person that had a call with me. And even if they didn't sign up for the program, it's all good. It's no pressure. I don't put pressure on people because I really don't want to work with people that aren't ready to do this. I'm not interested in dragging people. I'm not interested. I am definitely on a very fast track, and I'm interested in working with people that are ready to commit, that are ready to have that integrity with themselves and with me, and to really put forth the effort in creating from a very fast path and from, stepping into their real manifestational powers in becoming a reality creator. So that's a wrap for forgiveness. I think I've got some good stuff coming through, and I want to share it with you guys. So just let me know if you've got a question or if you have a topic or something that you want me to cover, because this is a lot of fun. I love talking about this stuff, and there's always new awarenesses that are coming through for me and new downloads. So I love that you're all a part of this. Peace out. Love ya.